drum roll. We need some sound effects back here. Oh, Dallas, look at you go. Are we ready? Are you ready? Rachel, can you hold that sign up?
Yeah.
Because I can't remember what you just said.
What?
Hold the sign up with the number. All right, we're ready at $40,327. Guys, we are less than $10,000 away from our goal of $50,000. That is incredible for one day. That is absolutely amazing. We're going to break the record. We have broken the record. We broke the record from last year. Way to go. So let's keep breaking it. Let's hit the goal of $50,000. And we've already broken the record of $40,000 for last year. So now we have just a little bit more to go for this telethon. And we are at 8 o'clock on Eastern Time, which gives us 3 hours to raise $10,000, and we can do it. How about we raise more? How about, I'm not up into gold, but I'm going to say, wouldn't it be great if we raised $60,000 tonight? Wouldn't it be great if everyone who's getting home and getting in their pajamas on the East Coast, and everyone who's getting off work on the West Coast, and everyone who is still working over in Asia or going to wake up soon in Europe, or maybe not, because it's like 2 in the morning over there, told your family and friends about CDH and said, hey, there is a crazy woman and her whole team in this office in North Carolina who are trying to raise a bunch of money, and there are a lot of researchers helping, and a lot of other families helping, and a lot of celebrities who are helping. So if your family and friends don't know about CDH, send them one of the celebrity videos. So, hey, say, look, this really cool guy, this WWE star, this NFL star, Superman himself, is telling us to help these kids. And I personally want to throw in $20. Will you match me? And ask 3 of your friends. Say, hey, if I donate $20 in honor of my child or in honor of a family I just saw on the video, will you help me match that, and let's make it $100? So share, and let's do that. And where are we sending everyone? Use the thing on the bottom, the cdhi.org. So go to the website, hit the big yellow button that says donate now. All donations are tax deductible. I'm going to keep talking until Gab comes in. So is Gab here?
Melissa's ready.
Oh, Melissa. Melissa's ready. All right, so we're going to switch up the schedule a little bit. And we're going to bring in Melissa Franz, and she's going to talk about her cherub. For Gab, so let's pull. Actually, let's pull Melissa in now. We're just going to pull Melissa in. All right, Melissa, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being so flexible on the schedule. I really appreciate that, and we're really happy to have you here. And we want to learn about your little one. We want to learn about Teresa. So tell us your story. Tell us how CDH has affected your family. Tell us about your angel.
I can feel myself crying right now.
It's okay.
So she was born in on September 30th, 2010. We had no clue. We were promised a healthy baby girl. And she was born, and she let out a little squeak, nothing big, and my OBGYN automatically put her on oxygen, and it blew out her right lung. NICU was called, and the NICU doctor who saw her knew exactly what she had. Noticed that her abdomen was dipping down, and just flew off with her down the hall to the local NICU there. And about an hour later, I think, I don't know, they brought me down, and they said, well, your daughter has a less than 10% chance to make it through the night. Are you okay with putting her onto ECMO? I had no idea what ECMO was. My phone was in my room, and I couldn't Google anything. We had no clue. I said, do whatever you can. Save her. So she was on ECMO for about 3 weeks. And we didn't know the effects what ECMO was going to do for being on it for such a long time. What we did know is that she had clots in all of her little fingers and toes. They were turning black from being on ECMO for so long. So our doctor, her neonatologist, finally got her off ECMO and did surgery the same day. She had everything up. Her liver was up, everything. But he was very surprised because she had 50% of her lung. So that was good. We thought that was really, really good. It was a good thing. But what we didn't know is that the effects of ECMO was still, and I'm not blaming ECMO at all. It's what happens. They told us that she can get clots. We knew it. What we didn't know is that she had a clot in the main artery going through her brain, stopping oxygenated blood going through her brain, and her brain has stopped growing. She had a clot in her spleen and one below her heart. We didn't know this until she was alive for 56 days. But from right after the surgery, she got better, and then she just went downhill. Everything, she was getting infection on top of infection, and they didn't know how or why she was getting so mean, or why she wasn't fighting them off. So we were told the day before Thanksgiving, they finally took her down and did an MRI CAT scan because she was having seizures. And that's when they found all the clots. And they said, well, they can give her a clot breaking up drug, but it's for adults and not meant for babies. That they didn't know what the damage that was going to do, but she would never be a normal child. So me and my husband, we went home and we talked and we prayed, and we knew it was time to just let her go.
You're doing great, Teresa.
So the day after Thanksgiving, we decided to let her go, and she took 1 or 2 breaths in my arm after they took her breathing tube out, and she passed away. The effect what it's had on my family is it's been hard, but we're trying our darndest to get back to normal. And this CDH group, I've only been with you guys for a few years now, has brought me a lot of hope. And I don't know, I'm no longer walking this path alone. So I'm very thankful for that.
Well, I'm very sorry for your loss. I wish you hadn't gone through what you went through. I wish you still had Teresa here with you. I'm glad you found us. I'm sorry we didn't find you. I'm sorry we weren't there when you were going through this, Melissa. We've shared a lot of stories today. We've shared a lot of diverse stories about dealing with CDH, and we've been very heavy on the survivor stories, not intentionally. That's just how it worked out. But your story is unfortunately so common, especially with ECMO complications. It's a lifesaver in some cases, but it has its own set of complications and risk outside of CDH, and it is so common, the blood clots on ECMO, and it's not fair. And I'm sorry. And you coming here and sharing Teresa's story and letting the world know this side of CDH and how painful it is, and how much it affects families. The world needs to know that. The world needs to know about this monster, and why it needs to be stopped, because not every story ends with a child going home and doing well with us featuring them here. Half the stories end up like mine and yours, where we don't have our children beside us to show how we beat CDH, though we are beating CDH ourselves, because we're surviving every day the effects that it has had on us and our families, and keeping their memories alive. And you're doing a lot right now in honoring her, and we appreciate that so much. And I know it's not easy. It's not easy to relive. I told my story a year and a half ago, and I was a blubbering mess. I mean, I'm ugly crying for a good hour and a half on Facebook. It was because I rarely tell my story, so I personally know how difficult it is to share that and relive that, and to do so publicly takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength and a lot of compassion to want to help other families and other babies who are going to go through the same thing. And I know she's very proud of you, and I'm really proud of you, and we really appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, this is basically one of my first times. Like, I've said snippets here and there, but there's a lot of things in her story that in that 56 days that I don't fully remember it anymore. Like, I can, like, somebody will say something and I'm like, oh yeah, Teresa went through that. But to remember all of it in, put 56 days into 15 minutes.
Yeah, you did a great job. You did a great job. But then they're right. There is so much more. There are the sleepless nights and the terrifying phone calls and the what ifs and the being thrown into CDH and not having time to prep, like you and me, who children weren't diagnosed, and all of the, if we had known things, all the what ifs. It's, grief comes with many, many, many layers. But
yes, and
you did it.
Life afterwards is a new normal, and you have to figure out how to navigate life.
Absolutely.
And I have a six-year-old now that he knows about his sister, and he's been asking a lot of questions, more and more about what she had, and it's really difficult to explain it to a 6-year-old about life and death. And it shouldn't be this way. We should not have to explain to our children at such a young age about life and death.
You really shouldn't. No child should have their childhood affected by CDH, whether it's the actual patient or a sibling. It's absolutely not fair. It's innocence taken away and replaced by hospital appointments, hospitalizations, and sometimes grief, and it's absolutely not fair. But you're here fighting that with us tonight, and we really appreciate that. And I'm going to have to let you go now because we have to get Gab in, and we will talk again soon. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn.
All right.
Okay.
I'll tell you soon. All right. Bye-bye. Okay. Now, Dallas will be in just a second, and we'll get Gab online. Gab's ready to go. Gabrielle Kardon from Utah. She's here, and we'll get her right in. I think we want to play a celeb. Let's do the 2-for-1 celebs. We did one wizard. Let's do another one.
Hi, this is David DeLuise. It is CDH Awareness Day, and I hope everybody can find it in their heart to be very generous and giving. This affects thousands of kids every year, so we hope that we can raise enough money to help affect these kids in a positive way.
Hi, this is Kevin Sorbo. On April 19th, it's International Congenital Diaphragmatic Hernia Awareness Day. That is CDH. And CDH, it hurts thousands of kids each year, killing 50% of them. And we are here to help try to raise more awareness for that, okay? So go to www.cdhi.org. That's www.cdhi.org. So happy CDH Awareness Day. Please donate to help these kids. Thank you so, so much.
Fighting against CDH and these guys, right? Now, if I could have got Wonder Woman in here too, I'd have been happy camper because she's my favorite. No offense to the men, but maybe next year. So if anyone knows her, do a shout out and say we would love to have actually more superheroes to do shout outs, more celebs all together. And so we had quite a few people working, helping us get these videos, and we're always planning for next year. So if you know a celebrity and you're watching this, hook us up. Hook us up. These kids need all the voices they can get. And I'm loud. I'm really loud, and I'm really pushy, but I don't have as loud a voice as a celebrity. So let us know. And Gab is here, so we're going to get her on board. Just a second. And don't, and I hear her. Gab, are you in?
I'm here.
I can hear you. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been an angel in so many ways the past few weeks, and we so appreciate all that you're doing to help us. And so glad that you're here because you do really important research, and we want the world to know about your research. So thank you for being here to share it with us. So we have met Gab several years ago, and she's in Utah, in Salt Lake City, and she came out to lobby with us in D.C., and then we had the conference in Salt Lake City last year, and she was so incredibly instrumental in putting the whole thing together, and we would not have been able to have the location that we had for it to go off as well as it did if it was not for her. So, and she's a medical advisor on our charity. She does so much for our kids, not just the kids and that she works with, with samples in Utah in her lab, but everywhere. And we really appreciate you, Gab. So I'm going to let you talk about your genetic research and what you do there.
Okay. Nice to see you, Dawn. So I have a lab in the University of Utah, and we have been working on CDH for about 8 years. And we do it sort of in two ways. So the one thing that we do, first off, is we use mice. So mice, just like humans, have a diaphragm. And so we can make genetic manipulations to the mice based on mutations that we see in humans. So we can figure out from looking at the mutations, well, we can look at genes that have been implicated by human studies and see whether they really give rise, whether mutations in those genes give rise to CDH. So we've made lots of mice that have diaphragmatic hernias. And then because we know that the pregnant mice will give rise to pups that have diaphragmatic hernias, we can look and see how those diaphragmatic hernias arise using the mice. And then because we can see, we can watch the hernias arising, we can start to look at what specifically is going wrong in the development of the diaphragm. So that's what we've done. A lot of work is basically modeling how diaphragms form normally and what goes wrong in CDH. And then, in addition, we've also been doing a lot of collaborative work with other CDH research labs. So we've worked with Wendy Chung, and we've worked with Pat Donahoe and Shin Sun and Kate Ackerman, looking at human genetic data to try to understand the complexity of how CDH arises in humans. And that's, part of the real challenge is that it's not like a disease like cystic fibrosis or Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, which is caused by mutations in a single gene. CDH is caused by many different kinds of combinations, many different mutations in many different genes, and many combinations of mutations. So our work and lots of other people's work has implicated probably over 100 different genes. And, you know, and that sort of explains some of the complexity of what a pregnant mother is facing when they have a diagnosis of diaphragmatic hernia, is that you can get, a baby could get a mutation in CDH via many different mechanisms. And the idea is, if we had some idea what the underlying mechanism is, maybe we could make some predictions about how we could treat the babies. And maybe we could understand, oh, this baby is likely with this mutation to have a really severe lung problem. And so we would do something differently than if the baby had a different kind of mutation. So, and because it's so complex, it really can't be one lab. It has to be many labs. And so I think the community of researchers is really trying to work together to figure this out. So
you're doing a great job of working with the other labs. It's wonderful to see everybody collaborating like you do. And I am not able to see all the questions as they pop up. I don't know if I don't think you are, because they're on the page and we're on the back end. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your lab, your whole team. We toured it last year when we were in Utah, which was amazing. The kids were just, bedazzled. They were great. Looking at the microscopes, seeing all of the mice parts is pretty darn cool when you're a kid, and pretty cool when you're an adult too.
Sort of almost surreal about seeing these kids who had diaphragmatic hernias looking at mice who had diaphragmatic hernias and realizing that they were seeing, what was happening to them or had happened to them, right? Because these are really young mice. Yeah. And be able to meet the lab workers there who work every day to fight CDH is wonderful. And we're so grateful that we were able to take that tour. Because to hear the researchers talk about their research is one thing, but to see the actual research and where you work, it makes the researchers less abstract, if that makes sense. Like I hope that for the lab workers, seeing the families makes the patients less abstract too. So right. And I think it's certainly really motivating for us because we're working extremely long hours. And, so there's a graduate student, there's a postdoc, there's a couple of technicians who are all working on this. And, it can feel like you're alone working in a lab. A lot of times, especially some of the culturing work we're doing at crazy hours of the night. And it's hard to be in a dark room, looking at a microscope at 1 a.m. and, keep up this is really useful, right? So it's really nice to see the families.
It is very useful. Everything that you do is a step closer to solving this really awful puzzle that is CDH, and another step closer to doing some gene therapy, hopefully sometime soon, so that we can stop this. And to pick a topic like CDH when you have no family connection to it and go, this is something I want to solve, is just incredible to us on this side, to have someone say, I want to help these kids, when you have no obligation to do so, except you just want to help our children. And CDH is the thing that you want to focus on. And we're so very grateful to you for that. And because really without your lab and without Dreams and Mass General, we have no hope to stop this. We really don't.
Right.
So you give us that, and that's a very big deal. So thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Of course.
So what can families do to participate in your research if they're not there? Now, you collaborate and you share samples with the other labs. So
so I would say actually for patients, the best way is so we actually have decided not to collect any human samples because it just didn't make sense. I feel, we felt like that, in particular, we've been working a lot with Wendy, or Pat, but there's several other groups. So there's also the group at Baylor that are well equipped to be gathering samples. We don't need, there's no reason for us in particular to grab the samples. So for instance, when people came to the meeting over the summer in Utah, it was actually Julia, who was from Wendy's lab, who, drew blood samples. And so that's certainly really, really helpful. And we do help. So we've been analyzing samples in collaboration right now with Wendy's lab, that she has a particular type of sample that is really special, hard to get at. And so, I would really encourage people to, I think I'm not sure if I'm getting all of the groups, but in the US, I think of Dreams, which is Wendy Chung, and
Yes.
Pat Donahoe, which is MGH, and then who's collecting the samples at Baylor? Is it Daryl Scott? I'm not sure who it is.
I don't think it's Daryl anymore. I think he's looking at something else, and there's someone other than him, and I can't recall their name because I just found that out about a month ago. But
right. But those are the three main groups, I think, that are collecting samples. For sure, people can email me and I can send you the contact information. But definitely to participate is really wonderful. So if you, and the idea is to get samples from the parents and from the child or the adult is the most helpful thing. That gives us the most insights. And of course, if there's more than one person in your immediate family or extended family, that's particularly powerful because that gives us more pieces of the puzzle to look at to try to figure out which particular genes are playing a role. And so if you're, in the unfortunate situation where you've had more than one child, or you've had a cousin who's had CDH, your family is particularly useful just because then we can try to figure out what's the common denominator, let's say, between the two different children. Because it's likely to be, it may be linked, it may not be linked, but that's particularly useful. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have one of the volunteers post the link to your website for your lab so the families can learn more about your research and see a lot of the slides that you have on there. So much more than we can cover in a few minutes. But is there last thing that you would like to add, Gab?
Well, I guess I invite anybody who's in Salt Lake who's interested in seeing the lab. We're always open to having people come. Send me an email. It's better if you give us a couple days notice, but even if you happen to be in primary children's getting a checkup, send an email. And you can just, we're a few minute walk from a primary children's. So you're absolutely welcome to come and see the lab, just to demystify it, right? And we always love having people come. And I really thank the families for how great they've been at sharing information, and really, I guess, keep in mind that you have lots of information. Your experience is really, really helpful. I've learned a lot of things from talking to families that I had no idea about from just reading, just doing the science or reading the literature. So know that your experience is really useful to a scientist, as well as, of course, sharing with other family members and, all the other things. But yeah. And we're extremely grateful to the charity for everything they do. And to you, of course.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're very much grateful for you. There's so many different things that you have done the past few years to steer the charity, new directions to help more families. And we so appreciate that. And I hope to see you again soon. Hopefully we'll get you out of the conference next year, wherever we figure out where that's going to be, somewhere on the East Coast. But we'll talk soon, Gab. Thank you so much. You have a great night.
Okay, same to you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we are going to go directly into talking to Michelle. Is Michelle available? But before we do that, it is 8:38. We're going to have another total up in 20 minutes. And we need to get closer to that $50,000 mark because we dream big here and we have to reach our goals so that we can help the families and we can help save some babies. So what are you going to do? You're going to share the video again, and you're going to share www.cdhi.org. And I hear Michelle. Michelle, are you there?
Yeah, I was super nervous about getting it to work because earlier today the little icon wasn't there. So I have Abby's phone here too, but I guess we're good. We're on.
You're good. I can see you. I can hear you. We're good. You did it. Yay.
Yay, I know.
Well, it's really great
So
to
happy.
see you again. And
I know.
Michelle was in Utah with us. It's like a Utah conference reunion here on the telethon today, which is wonderful, seeing so many faces from the conference. So
it just makes me miss everybody. We need to get together again soon.
We will. We will. We're going. Well, you guys have a baseball game and other events coming up because I know that Hope and Josh are always planning things in Utah, and then Nikki's planning things in Arizona for people out west also. But we're going to have the conference in the U.S. again next year. I'm going to be on the East Coast, so I think we need to do a CDH caravan from the West and get you all together and just come on out.
That'd be awesome. So great.
Yeah, we'll start planning that. Now, let's hear about Abby. Tell us Abby's story and your family's story.
Okay, so first of all, Abby wanted to be on here with the videos and everything, but she is a cheerleader and she has a cheer competition on Saturday, and so last minute they scheduled. So she is not here, so I have a picture of Abby. I'm like, here you go. This is Abby. So Abby is my 15-year-old CDH survivor. She was, I'll just start at October 2002. We went for our 16-week or 18-week ultrasound. We had it at 18 weeks. I requested it early for my last couple of babies because Abby is my fourth, and my oldest was fine, and my second baby died of a birth defect. She had a brain tumor, and so she was stillborn. Well, she died as soon as she was born, and they had misdiagnosed her in utero, and so after that I was really paranoid and requested 18-week checkups. So my next daughter was totally fine, and so I think I thought, oh, we're over a hurdle, and we're at that 18-week checkup. And I heard somebody earlier say, you know something's wrong when the tech, they get really quiet, and you start asking questions, and they don't answer you. So he didn't say anything, and I go home. Later that night, my OBGYN calls and says, over the phone, I'm all by myself at my house, and he tells me over the phone that my baby has congenital diaphragmatic hernia, that she has something wrong with her heart, and he lists all these things that are wrong with her, and he asked me if I would like to schedule a termination. And I'm hysterical, and I'm like, of course not, no, no, no. And he goes, okay, well, I better refer you to the perinatalogist then. I live in Utah now, but we lived in Arizona then. So we went to the Arizona perinatalogist. And anyway, it turns out all those things that were wrong, a technician just didn't know how to measure a CDH baby. And so her heart, the problem with her heart is that everything was squishing it. She was born with left-sided diaphragmatic hernia, and she had everything. If you could put it up in there, she fit it. So stomach, intestines, bowel, liver, everything. And they gave her only maybe a 25 or 30% chance of surviving because she was really severe. And back in the, I know we've talked, I've heard a couple of people say in the dinosaur ages before Google and before anything, we had dial-up internet. So how grateful was I that the first thing I did, dial-up search for, cherubs came up. So cherubs came up, and it was really basic back then. It was kind of stories of survivors and non-survivors and some basics. And I used to take turns every day, and I would read a survivor story, and then I would read a non-survivor story, because I didn't know which story we would have someday. And the other amazing thing I found, because nobody knows, when you say hernia, people are like, okay, so what's the problem? Yeah, so my baby's got a huge hole in their body in the wrong place. And we had an Arizona rep. She was super amazing. She had a non-survivor max. Her name was Annie, and I contacted her, and she totally befriended me, and she was my rock. Like we talked about hospitals and CDH, and she was my rock during a really hard time. Cherubs helped me find her. And anyway, I had met with doctors and stuff, and it wasn't looking very good. And Annie actually introduced me to a mom that had returned from Florida, and her baby was fine and made it. And she's like, yeah, we went to Florida, and there was a doctor there that specializes in CDH. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I look him up, and I find his email, and I email him, and he calls me on the phone, and he's like, yeah, and he's talking to me and asking me questions, and we had our 25% survival rate, and he says, well, our rate here of survival is about 80%. Can you come out here? I'm like, no, I have 2 little kids. I'm literally almost 9 months pregnant. It's like February, and she's due in March. But I got a little crazy with everything. Anyway, I showed up 2 weeks later in Florida on March 4th, and I delivered at Shands Hospital in Florida, and I had polyhydramnios, which is extra amniotic fluid, and I was carrying enough to have like triplets. I was huge, and so when I went into labor and my water broke, Abby had a ton of complications from that, so we ended up with emergency C-section. And I remember him pulling Abby out, and they said, don't worry if she doesn't cry, that's really normal. And she had this little squeak, and it was like a hopeful moment for me that she could even squeak. And then of course they take them away and they intubate them, and they'd had a C-section, so I didn't see her for 8 hours, but they got her stable. She was just on a regular ventilator. I signed all the papers for ECMO because they said that she should need ECMO. She probably was going to crash, but she didn't. We were very blessed. She just was stable on a regular vent, and at a week old, she had her repair. And then I have my cheat sheet because I wrote down our dates. So she was born on March 17th. And then on the 24th, she had her repair surgery. And then on April 9th, she came off the ventilator, and she was extubated. and then we moved to the step-down NICU, and then we had tons and tons of feeding issues. She couldn't eat any of her food down. She had a horrible oral aversion. They couldn't get her to take anything. And so on April 29th, she had a fundoplication Nissen placed and a G-tube placed so that we could get her with enough nutrition that we could go home. And so we went home from the hospital on May 21st. We came home, and the oral aversion lasted for a really long time. It was one of our greatest struggles. She didn't like food. She caught up on all of her motor skills and things like that. She also has really severe asthma. That's another complication she had. And so she had her G-tube until she was 12. And she eats food now. She's a itty-bitty, tiny thing. She's like 5'1". But she eats.
Good.
Sorry, Abby was texting me.
Oh, okay.
So,
as long as you're still there.
Yes, I'm here with Abby.
Oh, good. Okay.
She's like, we're not till 7. I'm like, sorry. Anyway, so we had tons of oral aversion, and then she quit growing. So we ended up having to do growth hormone treatments. And then when she was 9, her back started hurting, and we found out that she had scoliosis. So we wore a brace for a really long time. Last summer, Abby actually had scoliosis repair surgery. They did rods and pins and stuff. I have a picture. I don't know if this will show up good, but here's a picture of before and after. So we actually did that just a couple weeks before the conference, and Abby still came.
She was a trooper. She was a real trooper.
We had her in her recliner chair at the conference, and she's like rock star. And then, so her scoliosis has been fixed, I guess, and then her G-tube, she had to have a surgery to have that fixed. Her asthma will be long-term. And then we found out we should do a CT scan because x-rays aren't very good. So sure enough, last August we had a CT scan and found out that she has a hiatal hernia. But the surgeon doesn't want to fix it because she is super duper high risk, and we're waiting it out. So otherwise, that's kind of our story and what complications she's had and stuff.
You had quite a story, and I'm sorry, you have to excuse me for 1 minute. I have mascara in my eye for talking this long in this light, and it's burning. So I'm going to switch with Rachael, and she's going to interview you for a few minutes. Rachael, who you've already met in Utah, and I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Hey, Rachael.
Hey,
Rachael. Good
How are you? Good to see you too. It's been a long time. So, you know, I can't quite hear everything when I'm over in my desk as well, you know, in real time. So whatever you were talking about, just kind of keep doing it.
Well, I was just kind of going over some of her. I just kind of went over her story, what kind of struggles we've kind of had. I did ask Abby today. We were talking about teenagers and their scars, and she has lots, right? So she has her CDH scar. She has her Mickey button scar. She now has a zipper. The orthopedic surgeon calls it a zipper because it goes all the way down her back. And I asked her if she was self-conscious about it, you know, and she said, no, if I was a boy, you could just put pictures up everywhere and show it because I know I've earned them.
Oh, that's really true.
You know, like, that's what we have really, really focused on. We call them battle scars at our house. And so you got to be proud of your battle scars. It means you're a warrior and you fought through something hard.
Absolutely.
You know?
I think that that's a really great lesson to sort of teach because, you know, it's kind of embracing the things that people may try to use against you. And especially as a teenager, I think that that's really, really amazing that you guys have been able to sort of teach her that.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing she has that she's kind of struggled with is, so she has a really severe pectus. So that's actually bothered her more than any of her scars. but she asked about fixing it, and they told her how scary it was in the recovery, and she's like, never mind. I am good. I do not need another surgery, and so she's just going to live with her pectus because it's not causing any problems. It just, she can see it. It's really obvious.
Yeah,
So.
Definitely. That makes sense. So what would you say to all of the parents out there who may have, younger children with CDH as they're sort of entering their teenage years? What kind of special challenges has that given you guys?
I think the biggest thing, so because she has asthma and diaphragm issues, sometimes we've had struggles with stuff she's wanted to do. When she was little, we kind of had her in some gymnastics. And we had to pull her because it was causing problems when they started bars, and she loves to sing and she wants to be in the musical. And when you've had a big hole in your diaphragm, it's really hard to have that lung, And so I think that the best thing you do just is treat them like a regular teenager. Lots of people can't sing. So let's get a voice coach. Let's practice working those muscles.
Definitely.
Find something besides gymnastics. We switched to cheer. I think the biggest key is to treat them as normal as you can because that's all they really want. They just want to be regular kids.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely makes sense. And this was kind of short. Dawn is actually back, but it was so good to see you and talk to you again. And I'm actually going to give you back to Dawn. So I'll see you soon.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.
Nice seeing you too. Later.
Hi, Michelle. Sorry.
Hi, Dawn.
Sorry about that, everyone. I've been sitting here for almost
all day,
13 hours straight, and we have glaring camera lights, and my mascara said it was done. It was done, and it was hurting pretty bad. Otherwise, I would have tried to suffer through it. But me over here sniffling while you're trying to give an interview is so. I apologize. Thank you, Rachel, for taking over. Thank you, Michelle, so much. So we have. I think I'm going to. Rachel says we have 5 more minutes. Okay, so I missed out on a lot. I am so sorry Abby missed the interview. I'm sorry that we couldn't have her here, but we have several other families who were not able to appear because the flu hit one, and then we had technical difficulties with 2 others. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Tracy or Hope or someone from the CPAB to do interviews before the end of the month because it's still CDH Awareness Month. So we will try to schedule that so Abby can be here for that. So,
she'd love that.
We would love to see her. She's such a great kid. Your family is wonderful, and you're wonderful, and you do so much for the community. You all have no idea how much Michelle goes out of her way to help families behind the scenes. I'm not going to embarrass her by spilling it all out here.
We're on camera.
But it's phenomenal the way the families in Utah have banded together to help each other out and to do amazing things just so that everyone is able to help their children the best they can by having the support from each other. So I'm so proud of all of our Utah families. I'm proud of all of our families, but Utah especially, everyone is so close and so supportive of each other. And it was so great to meet you this past year, and we hope to see you at the conference next year. I really do think we need a caravan. Imagine the awareness we could raise across the country. We had a caravan of CDH families coming across this conference.
It would be awesome. I want to just say, my motto in life for everything, including this, is that if the Lord wanted us to be here and doing this by ourselves, we would be here all by ourselves. But we are all here together because we're supposed to be here to work together and to help each other. And so I just want to pay it forward. Like anybody who was there for me or whatnot, I want to pay it forward. And the support that we get from the Cherubs families is unreal. And it is a great big family, and I'm so appreciative. I love the Cherub family so much.
Oh, well, we love you and we appreciate you. And thank you, Michelle. And we'll talk to you all soon. All right.
Okay.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
All right. So we've slowed down a little bit, I know, just because everybody is just transitioning home from work and getting in your comfy clothes. So we are currently at 9 o'clock with 2 hours to go. We're at 43,610. So we have got to gear it up, you guys. We've got a little under $7,000 to go in 2 hours. And we have a very special celeb. And I'm going to give you a little intro to this celeb. I'm not going to tell you who she is, but this celebrity, I reached out to her and didn't have to go through an agency or an agent. I reached out to her directly and just happened to send her a random message going, hey, we're doing this for these kids. Would you mind helping us out and doing a short video clip? And she made the video within a couple of hours and sent it to my cell phone with a sweet little note. And I was jumping up and down to have this woman just message us on the cell phone, the video herself, and going out of her way to do this for us. And she's beautiful inside and out. So there's your clue for this one. So Rachel, let's show who the celebrity is.
Hi, I'm Kim Alexis. Today is Congenital Diaphragmatic Hernia Awareness Day. This is a serious birth defect, and I'm asking you to pledge now money to help save these kids.
We are back. Okay, Lisa.
Hello.
All right, so there you are. Okay, it takes me a few seconds to catch up to everyone. I'm excited to see you because I get to see you tonight, and then I get to see you on Monday, too.
I'm excited. Can't wait.
Yes, I'm really excited. So we want to hear all about Lindsay and your story with CDH. So I'm just going to hand the camera over to you and tell you just to get started and tell us about your journey.
Okay, well, let me forewarn everybody that I have not talked about my full story with Lindsay pretty much since the day she was born. Anybody that's been in our circle kind of knew her story, but the first time I'm actually opening up and sharing it, so I'm probably going to be a little emotional, so I'm going to give everybody Lindsay was, well, let me back up. I first learned at 20 weeks when I was pregnant that Lindsay had a heart defect, and it was at her anatomy scan. We were so excited to learn that we're having a baby, and then we find out she has a heart defect. Fast forward to week 24, and we are sent from a small town in South Carolina to a little bit larger of a city to get a little bit more information as to what's going on, and we find out she has a second heart defect. Obviously devastating. Not sure what's going on, and they send us to Charleston to do more research. And the team of doctors met with us, confirmed everything that was going on with her heart defects, and we found out she was diagnosed with CDH at 27 weeks along, so pretty late in the game when I hear about other families that have been diagnosed so much earlier. The doctors pretty much said that her intestines were in her chest cavity, and her left lung was about 30% of what it should have been, and her right lung was about 60% of what it should have been. So they said to us right away, with no pretty much bedside manner, she has less than a 50% survival rating. And obviously it sends your head spinning. You're not following what CDH is. You're not understanding it. You're repeating the same thing over and over again. And at the end of the day, they're like, don't go on the internet because every case is so different. It's going to scare you. And we really don't know the outcome. So here are some hospitals that we think she might do really well in, because we do not have the ability to take care of her here that we think she would have a good survival chance. So we sat down with another person at the hospital, and they put us in touch with a couple different hospitals. My husband is retired military, so thank goodness we had really great insurance. And with the doctors at MUSC putting the letter together, they were able to forward that onto our insurance company and allow us to research hospitals that were outside of our region. We called one hospital, or I called one hospital specifically, and they pretty much said A plus B equals C, because we've never seen these two heart defects along with CDH. So after that, obviously it was frustrating that they didn't want to see her, because they figured if that was the case, why do surgery on a baby that could possibly die, is what they said to me. You never want to hear that, so of course Mama Bear starts fighting, and I just happened to have a friend that was in college with me who happened to be at Cincinnati Children's Hospital at the time in the NICU with her daughter who had a lung issue, but not CDH related. I called over to her and I let her know what was going on, and she put me in touch with the one of the nurse coordinators there, and the nurse coordinator had me reach back out to her. We had a long discussion, and at about just shy of 30 weeks, my husband and I spent our Christmas Eve driving to Cincinnati to meet the team of doctors. On Christmas Day, we did our testing, a full day of testing, and it was exhausting. We ended up meeting with the doctors at the end of the day, and they talked to us about Lindsay's prognosis, the good, the bad, the ugly. They gave it to us truthfully, because we really weren't sure where, what was going to happen. Obviously, they said, healthy baby in utero could be the healthiest coming out, and vice versa. So their plan to move forward was for me to come back at 34 weeks, and then again at 36 weeks to stay in Cincinnati and deliver Lindsay at 37 weeks. I went up to Cincinnati with a friend at week 34 for my next testing, because my husband was trying to save his PTO hours. And they pretty much said her heart defect, which is called absent ductus venosus, if anybody knows what that is, what happens is her umbilical cord bypassed her liver and went right into her heart. So she was getting all the blood flow from my umbilical cord, which was putting her into heart failure. And although she wasn't in heart failure, they were watching her, monitoring her every day, and sometimes twice a day. And they wanted to make sure they caught it before she went into heart failure. So my friend was with me, my husband was not with me, and he gets the news along with me at the same time on a conference call at the end of the day of the testing, says to me, the doctor says, her cardiac output numbers are so high, we want to admit you right away. Obviously, again, my husband wasn't there. I was frantic. They were about to give me shots to get her lungs ready to prepare to deliver. My friend had to go back to the Ronald McDonald Hospital where we were staying and pack my stuff up. I wasn't able to go anywhere except right to the hospital. It was overwhelming. I didn't know next steps. Pretty much I went to the hospital, and again, same thing. Every day, every night, every afternoon, I was being monitored around the clock. And at around, I think the first week into it, they said, okay, she's doing okay. We're going to keep going with her and see how she does. At week 37, well, she made it to 37 weeks in a day. I will say, though, just to back up a little bit, this was not easy. On a personal note, we had tried to have a baby, and we weren't successful, so we went the round of IVF. And IVF was emotionally exhausting, draining, mentally, physically, emotionally, and then to have to deal with a pregnancy where I chose not to have a baby shower. I chose not to order furniture, to order clothes. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, if she was going to come home with us, and I didn't want to have to go through that. So sitting in a hospital, you really have a lot of time to think for 3.5 weeks as to what's going to happen and how you're going to prepare for CDH and what my life is going to look like afterwards. Lindsay made it to 37 weeks in a day, and sorry.
No, you're doing great, Lisa. You're doing great.
Thank you. She made it to 37 weeks in a day. So obviously we didn't sleep well the night before we knew we were going to deliver. The doctor, pretty much, Dr. Lim came in and talked to us, told us what to prepare for the following day. He said he did not want Lindsay to cry at the delivery because she already had a fragile lung and they didn't want it to injure it anymore. He said to my husband, if everything looks good, we'll come over and we'll get you and you can meet Lindsay. And if it doesn't look good, we're going to escort you out pretty quickly. So the next day we hoped for the best. My husband brought me over to Cincinnati Children's Hospital. because the hospital I was at did not have an ECMO team, and they really weren't sure how Lindsay was going to move forward and if she was going to need ECMO right away. So they brought me over there. The anesthesiologist met me later that morning and said, do you want to have fuzzy memories of this, or do you want to be kind of sedated? And I said, pretty much, I want to remember everything. This is my daughter. So we went into the room. They prepped me, ready to go. My husband came in and met me. I remember vividly the smell of the room, the look of the room. There were 64 doctors, nurses, cardiologists, ECMO nurses, neonatologists, all waiting for Lindsay's grand arrival. And they started the C-section, and Lindsay came out. She cried, and I was like, oh no, she's not supposed to cry. I got really nervous. They showed her to me. 1 second over the blue tarp, well, not tarp, the shield that they had that was, separating me from her. She was gorgeous. She took my breath away. She was whisked away within 2 seconds. I barely saw her. What felt like an hour of waiting to see what was going on was probably only 5 or 6 minutes till they intubated her and checked her vitals. They said she pinked up right away. She looked great. My husband, the neonatologist, came over to my husband and said, would you like to come meet your daughter? And of course I was like, go, 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 because I wanted to make sure that he saw her. I was pretty much finished. They finished me up, closed me up, and then they wheeled me off, and I got to touch, they stopped me where Lindsay was, and I was kind of perpendicular to her, and I was able to touch the top of her head and tell her how much I loved her and how brave and strong she is. And that was it. My husband followed Lindsay to the NICU, and my mom and my dad and my sister-in-law happened to be in the waiting area by the elevator bank by the NICU, and they got to meet Lindsay. And when I got back to the room, the nurses had taken a picture of Lindsay, and because I wasn't able to get down to her for a little while, they took a picture of her and they put it at my bedside. And this was the actual frame in the picture, and it's cracked, unfortunately, from our move, but I wanted to preserve it. Obviously, it's a great memory I have of her. And it took me about 24 hours till I was able to get my legs underneath me where I was able to go visit her. But nobody prepares you. You can walk around the NICU all you want and think you know what you're looking at, and until it's your child hooked up to all these tubes and wires and machines, it really hits you. It's emotional and overwhelming, and it's something you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. She was put on the add-on schedule to have her repair surgery at 5 days old, and unfortunately they had a bunch of a bunch of emergency surgeries which prevented her from moving forward to have her her repair till day 8. But I did ask and I begged the doctors to let me hold her. Obviously, another thing CDH took away from me was I wasn't able to hold my child at birth. I was so eager to touch her, feel her. The only thing I could do while she was laying in the NICU was to touch her head and to touch her toes. But every time I talked to her, her heart rate would escalate, and they would pretty much, tell me to stop talking. It was really rough. So they agreed to let me hold her on day 5, of course, thinking that her surgery was going to be that day. And it's interesting. The 1 foot move from the isolette to our chair was, 1 foot wide, and it took 2 nurses and about 20 minutes to prep her before they can even get her to move over that 1 foot. I held her that day. It was magical. It was a day I'll never forget. And again, she had her surgery on day 8. Dr. Lim had told us that the surgery would be about 3 hours long. They had to not only repair the CDH hernia, they had to also repair the umbilical cord issue that was supposed to resolve itself at birth but didn't happen. About 40 minutes into the surgery, they called us and they said that she was doing really well. The hernia was repaired at that point, and they were moving on to the umbilical cord issue. Everything went really well. What they did find was with her first defect, which I didn't mention, was called dextrocardia. I'm sure you guys have heard along the way from today, a lot of times the heart shifts to the side of the chest. In Lindsay's case, it flipped completely backwards and placed to the other side of the chest. So They said it was a poor plumber that put it together, but structurally it works fine. The left ventricle's on the right ventricle's on the left. So everything was backwards. Well, in dextrocardia, a lot of times the organs in your abdominal cavity shift to the other side as well. So during the surgery, they found out her appendix shifted over to the other side. So that was something new to us that we were not aware of. So they took that out. That way we know in the future she won't have an appendix and no issues, that it's on the other side of her chest. And the surgery was a success. Dr. Lim came out, he told us what to expect over the next couple days. And I went in and saw her right away as soon as they got her back into the room. She went right into a pod with several other babies. She was completely swollen. I didn't recognize my child. And she was sedated off and on for about 5 or 6 days because she got so agitated with all the noises around her. She just couldn't tolerate it, and she just got, her heart rate escalated so much and she kept getting an tachycardia where her heart rate just was going off the chart. So they sedated her, and then finally when she got into her own room, about a week later, we were given a private room, and she was able to settle down and relax and be more alert at that time. So she did really good. And the hardest part about CDH that nobody tells you about are the feedings. The feedings, normally, you know, when a baby comes out, they go right to the breast, they feed, they could breathe, suck, swallow at the same time. Well, Lindsay was given nutrients through tubes. She wasn't able to eat, she wasn't able to take any of my breast milk for weeks. So by the time they got to actually feeding time, the doctors thought she was ready and let's give it a shot. Well, speech therapy came in to assist us with that, and that took almost a week to get her to understand that she had to breathe, suck, and swallow at the same time, and she was throwing it up. It was so devastating because you work so hard to get her this liquid gold that they call it, and then she's throwing it up. And it was frustrating because the feedings felt like it took forever. A normal baby can, you know, take ounces, you know, right, or milliliters right in the beginning, and you had to hold her in a certain football position and reposition her, and she would tire out so quickly. You couldn't even give her 1 milliliter in the first couple of days, and it was a success when she would go up 1 milliliter or another milliliter every single day. But again, she would tire out, so the rest of it, she had an NG tube in her nose, and the rest of it would have to be given through the NG tube. And that took, I mean, until we were in the NICU for 64 days, and I tried my hardest to feel what it would be like to breastfeed my child, and we tried, and we knew we were prolonging it. She was devastated. She was frustrated. I got frustrated. It was just making the experience worse for both of us. And I just knew that, again, my birth plan, all the hopes and dreams I had of having this child, this wasn't a normal baby, and I had to realize that I had to treat her as a special child. So those 64 days were pretty excruciating, and I didn't think we were getting out of there. And when we finally got the approval that we would be able to go home, I had to be trained to put an NG tube in. I'm not a doctor. Nobody tells you when you're having a baby you have to learn what a maternal fetal medicine doctor is. You have to learn what hydrops are, which is fluid around their lungs, brains, and heart to see if they're going into heart failure. Nobody tells you how to put an NG tube in. And we had to go through all these trainings, and along the way, you know, I learned how to put an NG tube in. She came home on an NG tube, and when she was about 4.5 months old, she realized she had hands and she could pull it out. And at 4.5 months old, she went to town, and I got frustrated, and I told the doctors, that's it, I'm not putting it back in. So I had to work really hard to get her to get her food, you know, her milk down orally. And it happened, and she did really great, because if not, I knew what the outcome was going to be, which was going to be a G tube through her belly, and I wasn't about to go down that path because I was fighting for her and she was fighting for me. So that was really special.
You're doing an amazing job describing in detail everything that no one tells these parents. It's like you're taking us on a journey through the NICU with us, Lisa. You're doing a really great job.
Thank you. My heart's racing a million beats a minute, but it's working.
You're doing good.
I will say, though, well, thank you. I will say, as a emotional part of it, is I went through a whole stage of why me, what ifs. I think that's so normal in this journey we all take, even though our journey is all similar. Our outcomes obviously are all very different. But CDH is a monster. It tests you so hard. It tested my marriage. It tested the fact that I had to quit my job. I knew that I couldn't hold down a job with all these doctor's appointments. It just got to the point where it was so overwhelming because there were so many doctor's appointments with heart, lung, pulmonary, speech, physical therapy, occupational therapy. And Lindsay had so many appointments when she got home. Every single day there was something, and every appointment took like 3 or 4 hours at a time because they wanted to do everything at one time. And, you know, we're lucky. We got off of speech therapy and occupational therapy when she was 9 months old, but she didn't get out of physical therapy because she had torticollis in her neck. So she was holding her neck like this for probably the first 9 months of her life. She didn't have any support or strength on her neck. And I actually have a picture of her. This is her, so you can get an idea. She couldn't sit up straight. The happiest kid with a NG tube, but couldn't sit straight at anything. So she was always constantly laying to the side. So we had to work really hard with PT to get her to actually just sit up. And it was, again, something that you don't ever plan to do with your child. But again, a mother and a father, that's their job, is you fight for your child. And you're given a situation and you need to be very strong for your child, because what else could you do? Nothing. You have to be strong for your child. But again, what's interesting is to this day is her heart being backwards. She's the first case study like this. So the prognosis for Lindsay is unknown. The CDH part of it was repaired with her own skin from her diaphragm. So we were lucky that she had excess skin to be able to repair it that way versus using a patch. But she's a medical mystery, you know, which is great, but it's scary at the same time, because every time we go to a cardiology appointment, the doctors want to bring in 5 other doctors to see how cool her heart is. Well, to me, you know, it's my daughter. It's not cool, you know. So it's that whole thing of everybody thinks it's interesting to see a heart going backwards and the blood flow going backwards. But I tell everybody the same thing. Every case is different. Make sure you talk to other families, get the support you need. I was very it was interesting because I did not learn about cherubs. I was one of the people that stayed off the internet for a while and focused on Lindsay the whole time I was in the NICU. And it wasn't until my NICU neighbor, who just happened to have twins, she had a healthy baby and a CDH baby. She was riding back with me to the Ronald McDonald House, and she informed me about cherubs and all the forums and all the support. So that night I went on to, you know, the Cherub site, and I looked at everything, and I said, my gosh, how come nobody told me about cherubs before this? I can't believe that there was no brochures. Nobody was passing on information of, if you needed support, this is where you should go. I would have loved to have had that, you know, then, versus what I'm doing now by you know, I love helping other families and giving the support that I want, you know, that I can do. For other families, I've been, I know when I got home, I called Cherubs and I talked to them and I told them my story, and as many emails, I'm sure, and voicemails everybody had to return, I felt like I was the only person in the world that, you know, that was being spoken to at that time. And I'm very grateful, because when I got off the phone, I remember saying, I want to help now. I want other people to know the journey I walked on, and I want to be able to help other people so they don't feel so alone in this process. And that's kind of how I stepped in and started volunteering for you all, because I knew that I had to give back, and that was important to me, was to know that I have a survivor, and these kids don't have voices, and they need people to support and fight for them, and to show that, you know, this research money that we're collecting now, this money we're collecting now goes to research and awareness. And I have done so much, you know, awareness. Every time I go somewhere, I share Lindsay's story. I educate people as even in a grocery store. I mean, she may look normal from the outside, but people don't know the insides. They don't know that her, you know, her intestines were kinked up and she had feeding issues. And unless you share that, nobody knows the story. And, you know, it's my job now to go on Capitol Hill like I do. I'm fortunate I live in Virginia, and I can easily take a 20-minute metro ride into DC, or maybe an hour metro ride into DC, and lobby and support all these families, because I can vividly remember, this will be my 4th year, I guess, lobbying on the Hill.
Yes.
And I remember my first year vividly, and I share it all the time. I cried in every single session. I'm lucky I have a survivor, but the stories and the people you meet are, I mean, instrumental in what I do for Cherubs. I remember a family the first time saying, I held my baby for the first time, and the last time all in the same time. And it breaks your heart. It just breaks your heart. And I know that there's more that I could be doing. And I laugh about it because I shared it with you at some point that last year was inaugural ball, and I took, Cherub's brochures to the inaugural ball, and when I saw the celebrities, I'm like, I have to meet these celebrities. I have to share Cherubs with them. I have to share these CDH babies, and I try to, tweet as many people as I can about CDH and anything I could do to raise awareness, including, when we moved here, we did an article in our newspaper, our local newspaper. Anything we could do to raise awareness, I mean, that's what our family's going to do. And I hope Lindsay, I hear about these other children, and I hope she embraces the scar and she realizes what a special miracle baby she is. And I call her a miracle baby, and she runs around saying she's a miracle baby, but I hope she realizes really what an impact she's going to make in the future for these other babies and other children that are going to, follow in her footsteps of being survivors. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that attitude. She definitely is a miracle baby. With the heart defects in CDH, she's a miracle baby all around, and she's adorable. That child could be a model. She's just absolutely beautiful. And you do so much for us, Lisa, and it's so wonderful to see you every year in DC, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again. And this year, Lindsay's going to be with us, right?
I'm actually going to, I don't know what this, she's a ferocious 4-year-old.
Hey, it'll be great.
She's a ferocious 4-year-old, so she's got a sassy person. It's going to be entertaining, to say the least. So I'm excited to bring her, and she's going to wear her wings, and she's excited about that. She knows that.
Oh, well, Emily will be there too. So we'll have fun with both the girls this year. It'll be a lot of fun. And they make much more of an impression than we can ever make. We can tell the stories, but to bring those cuties in with their wings, the staff remembers them far more than they remember us. So we're grateful to have her there because she's already being put to work on raising awareness. So that is wonderful. So we're going to say goodbye for now, but I will see you again in 3 days. So thank you, Lisa, for everything.
Exactly. Thanks so much for the opportunity to talk, Don. Thanks again. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, so we have a new update. We are at 45,282. We're going to be doing another update at 10, and I'm writing this down so I'll remember it because Rachel's constantly updating it, so I want to remember, see how far we've come in the last half hour. And then at 10 o'clock, we're going to start doing some updates on every 15 minutes. So we have Shelly Moore up next. Before we get to Shelly, let me remind you to read the bottom of the screen or to go to www.cdhi.org. If these stories are touching you, you want to make a difference, you want to help families like Lisa and all the other families that you met. You want to help the researchers like all that you saw. And we had a small portion of the researchers tonight. There's so much more research going on with CDH. We had a very small presentation of CDH researchers in hospital today. Couldn't possibly have everyone on, but know that there are many of us working together. And your donation not only goes to help CDHI and the families of CDHI, but to help us collaborate with all the CDH charities in the Alliance and all the research hospitals that we work with. So your make a little donation, make a big donation. We'll take any donation to help these kids. But the donation that you make will ripple across the entire CDH community in ways that I cannot explain, on little bitty clips here on this video at this telethon, in ways that you can't possibly fathom, to help all these children and to save some lives. So if you've ever wanted to save life, here you go. Whip out your wallet. You can do that right now, www.cdhi.org. Now we are going to talk to Shelly Moore. Shelly, ready? Shelly there? So Shelly on just a second. We are down to the last hour and a half. You all have been so patient with us all day. And this experiment that we're calling CDH Telethon number 2. And you've been incredibly supportive because we've already surpassed last year's goal and we are very close to the 50,000. Please don't make us work this hard. Go to bed after all this work and not reach our goal. All these families sharing their stories, bearing their hearts and souls, their tears for all of us all day long. We can't let them down, right? So help us reach this goal and donate right there online, or you can mail a check in. The address is right there on the bottom of our website too. We take cash, we take checks, we take money orders, we take credit cards, every major credit card. If you want to send in your penny collection, we'll count them. We're happy doing that. Every single penny helps these kids. Literally, every penny helps these kids. 92 cents of every dollar goes back to help these children at our 5-star, award-winning, 23-year-old charity that helps families in 70 countries, over 600 families who are registered. That's a drop in the bucket to the number of families that are actually out there that we still need to reach and help. And we never charge families a cent for any of our services, ever. We never have. As long as I am president, we never will. So we're going to get Shelly in here any minute. Okay, so I have lost the last page of the schedule, you guys, so I'm going to need one of those. We don't know where Shelly is. Okay, so I was just counting to see how many more interviews we had to go on. So after Shelly is Nicolle. Nicolle, are you there and ready? Or Shelly, if we can't get Shelly in, so that we can keep us on schedule. And we have 5 celebrities left, I believe, 4 or 5. We actually had 2 more celebrity videos come in on email while I've been sitting here today, but I don't have time to edit them. So guess what? You guys will see those on the website this weekend. Or maybe we'll save those till next year. I don't know. We'll figure that out. It gives us a jump start next year's telethon. And we have the Franz video that we can also do. So, you know what? If we don't have... Why don't we go ahead and play the Franz video, and we'll do that, and then we'll get Shelly in when we can. So, let's see what the French charity is up to.
Hi everyone, it's Annelise from the Apedia French charity.
Yeah, in just a second, we will get there. All right, Rachel's working on that. She'll have her up in just a minute. Annalise, who we weren't able to connect with earlier, was so kind to make a video we could upload later so that you all did not miss out on the great work that they're doing over there in France to help the kids there. And they are doing some amazing work. I am so proud of them. I'm not going to tell you what they're doing. I'm not going to give away her whole speech. But I am just incredibly, incredibly proud of them. Proud to work with them. And
in advance,
very, very good people over there helping a lot of families.
For a long time, so it's quite a difficult exercise for me to speak in English today. So, as I said, I'm Annelise, the mom of Jeanne, a little girl born last May with a left CDH, diagnosed at the 35 weeks ultrasound. It was quite a shock for us, because you don't expect such news when you're 35 weeks pregnant. I can still remember the doctor saying, I don't understand, I see the stomach in the chest, that might be a CDH, but I'm not sure about it, so you might go to a specialized center to have further exams. So all the tests had to be done very quickly because we didn't have much time left before the birth. And the MRI shows that my daughter had the stomach in the chest, but also part of the liver, the spleen and bowels. So we were informed of a quite severe CDH with only 18% of lung capacity, and we were given a survival rate at about 20%. That was another very big shock for us, and even more because we have been told just before the MRI that usually when the CDH is discovered at the end of the pregnancy, the prognosis is better, and obviously wasn't the case for us. So we didn't know what to do. It was too late to have the fetal surgery, and as the doctor said, at 35 weeks pregnant, you just wait and see and hope that things are going to be better than expected. So I must say that was the longest months of my life. On one hand, I was hoping that my daughter will survive, and on the other hand, I was watching at those numbers and I was saying to myself, there's no way she's gonna make it. Finally, 1 month after, Jeanne was born and she did well. She didn't need a lot of life support. She was put on a breathing machine and got a repair surgery 2 days after birth. While operating, the surgeon discovered it was a different kind of CDH, which is called a CDH with an hernial sac. And that explained why everything went so well for Jeanne, because that kind of CDH usually presents better overall prognosis. So she was took off the vent 2 days after the surgery, and we came back home 3 weeks after her birth. And that was so unexpected, and every day I think about how lucky we were with the CDH. And I think that my story is the perfect example that with CDH, the severity of the condition can only be verified once the baby is born. And after all this, I wanted to help families touched by CDH, and that's why I decided to volunteer and I joined the Apedia. The Apedia has been created in 2007 by the parents of a baby boy born with a right CDH and who unfortunately deceased. Since then, other families had joined the charity, and we all have very different stories. But our main activities are to help families affected by CDH by providing them support and accurate information so that they can make the best decision for their child. We are currently working on a tote bag that will be offered to families once the baby is born. We also provide financial support for accommodation and travels during the pregnancy and after the baby's birth, so that parents can stay next to their child at hospitals. A lot of families are living far away from the hospital, and some families need to go to Paris to have the fetal surgery, and they can't pay for the 4 or 5 weeks stay needed for the fetal surgery. So that's a real issue, because some families refuse the fetal surgery due to economic reason, and that's why we are trying to help them with that financial support. Also, we participate to medical conferences so that we can learn about the latest state of art about CDH, and we also can talk with doctors and share about families' feedbacks and pains. And we are very lucky in France because we have a reference center for CDH approved by the Ministry of Health, and that center concentrates doctors specialized in CDH. Those doctors wrote diagnostic and care protocol to be followed by all the French hospitals. And we are working with those doctors to improve the protocol and to create new material for families. For instance, we are currently working on a booklet that will be given to families. We also raise funds to finance our activities, and we are also part of the ACDHO, which gives us the chance to work with other organizations across the world so that we can better serve babies and families affected by CDH. Well, I think I'm done. Thanks again, CDH International and Cherubs, for the amazing job you're doing every day. Bye.
authentic, but they're doing an amazing, amazing job, and we're very excited to work with them. And I will learn how to pronounce that when I see some of them in Europe in June. So up next, Nicolle, are you there? I
am.
All right.
I can't see you.
I can't see
you hear
either.
me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. That's very strange. Do you by chance have your finger over the lens? Is your finger over the lens maybe?
No.
Okay. Because that's really odd. We've not had that problem. Do we need to just connect or keep going? Keep going.
Yeah.
That's odd. And now we've lost her? I don't hear her.
She's reconnecting now.
Okay.
It looks like maybe.
All right. So all right, so Nicolle will be back in a minute. So we will get her going. And okay. All right. And so we're at 9:38 already. So we'll get Nicolle in here.
Hey,
I hear
Okay.
her. All right, let's try this again.
All right, I see you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I cannot see you.
I can see you.
Okay. I can't see you. But you know what? We're going to go for it, and hopefully you will appear eventually. If not, you're going to be the voice in the black box. We've already posted your picture earlier to let everyone know that that you were coming up. There you are. Now I see you.
Oh.
There you are. There's Nicolle. Great. That is so strange. Anyway, okay, so let's focus. Now that we have that in, Nicolle, you have been with us for years, and you have been on the CPAB for years with us, and you did such a phenomenal job fundraising in memory of Casey that we threw you in the fundraising committee and made you head of that committee. So you have had many titles here at Cherubs for a while now, and we all adore you, and we all appreciate you, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But most importantly, your title here at the charity is Casey's mom. So we would like to hear more about your angel. So can you tell us about Mr. Casey and your journey with CDH?
I can. He was born. So I guess backtrack. So we had our 20-week ultrasound in July, and we knew something was wrong, but we did not know what. The tech was acting really weird, and we had to wait like a week or two to see radiology, or for radiology to look at it and to get back with us. Probably the longest 2 weeks of my life. And they finally said something was wrong, but they couldn't tell us what was wrong. From there until he was born, it was pretty much a crapshoot. They tried a lot of things. They thought he had something called Beckworth-Wiedemann, which is like an enlarged tongue, but his tongue wasn't sticking out, so he really was just kind of stretching to try to figure out what was wrong, and never really could. I asked for ultrasounds to be sent off, and they sent them off, but not without saying, hey, this is what I think he has. Can you basically confirm that? And he had ironically sent it off to San Francisco, and they just agreed with what he had, what they thought he had, which was really frustrating. But I guess that's just how the medical field works. They said they didn't have time to blindly look at it. And they also said the same thing when he was in the NICU. We asked for a second opinion and for someone to come over from Children's, because he was at St. Joe's in Denver. And they said they didn't have time. And I got pretty upset and said, make time. This is my kid. I want to be able to look myself in the mirror at night and say, I did everything I could to ensure that he would survive. And they called
I mean, they made several phone calls to places in Europe. They brought in some special formula, and I mean, in the end, you know, nothing, it didn't help. But I mean, we can look ourselves in the eye and say we did what we could to fight for our little guy's life. So he had his surgery, I think it was like the second day after he was born. He did really well. He was about 2 weeks, I think it was about 2 weeks after he was born. He was off nitric, he was coming off the oscillator, and just kind of took a turn for the worse. Couldn't kick the extra fluid, and they gave him LASIK. He just couldn't. And so basically his lymphatic system just wasn't working. Either something happened during surgery or in utero, they have no idea. But ultimately he died of heart failure. But it was, I mean, he was born at 7'5". He died at like 15 pounds. And he was only a month old. So he was strictly with water. It was all water weight. So he died December 19th, which is actually the day before he was supposed to be born. So, yeah, it was a long month in the NICU.
And he was your first child.
He was.
Do you think that made it a little bit easier or harder? Because Shane was my first, last, only, and I've often thought about what it would be like to have another child before we had our cherubs. But we didn't know. We were so naive. We didn't know any different.
No, exactly. And I couldn't imagine dealing with some of these parents. Like, these parents have to find something to do with their kids while they're at the hospital and splitting your time. I mean, I was at the hospital all the time. Like, I mean, it was a miracle my dog stayed alive. Like, my focus was my kid. So, I mean, I don't know how I paid bills. I just don't remember a lot of that time period. Like, my focus was strictly Casey. And like some other people said, like, I wasn't told not to Google, but I didn't Google. I don't know why, because that's just not my nature. But I did not Google. And I actually didn't find cherubs until the May after he died. He died in 2008, and I didn't find cherubs until May of 2000, or sorry, he died in December of 2008, and I didn't find cherubs until May of 2009. And I didn't find it. A friend of mine said, hey, here's the support group, you know, check it out. And so, because I had done no research. And I don't know if that was just denial, not wanting to know anymore since he wasn't here. I don't know, but it was a blessing. And I mean, I got huge support from cherubs. I mean, it was like my therapy. I didn't go to therapy. I should have, but that was my therapy. Like, you know, logging on to the forums and talking to people who had gone through the exact same thing I had. It was huge to have that support and to have all those people help me get through the same thing that they were going through or had gone through. So,
and you have taken that and you've turned that around to help other families. You've been on the CPAP for 4 years, 5 years, maybe longer. Do you know? Long time.
I don't. I actually asked Tracy that not too long ago, and we couldn't remember. It's been a while.
And you've helped a lot of families as part of that board. You were Colorado representative. You're still Colorado representative. What am I saying? You know, you've been supporting families for years when you didn't have support during your journey with Casey. And there are several other families who did not have support, who turned around and don't want other families to not have sports, so they volunteer. But you did something so incredible a year after Casey died. Right after I met you, you had this bee in your bonnet, this drive to do this thing and make it incredibly successful, and you did. And now I don't think of Christmas without Casey because it's just kind of synonymous in my head. So
it was, yeah, that was his birthday. That was his first birthday that I did that on.
Yes. And do you want to tell everyone what you did? Because your job, one of your many hats here at the charity, is a fundraising coordinator on the CPAB along with Amanda. And do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you did?
Yeah, I really, and I don't even know how it came about, but I guess I just felt like I needed to do something. And so I had a silent auction. I rounded up donations after donations after donations, and I had my neighbor, actually, he was a manager at a country bar not too far from our house, and he let me use the space for free. So we had a silent auction that day. That was actually, it was really close to his birthday. I don't think it was on his birthday. And we raised $10,000 that year just off of the silent auction.
That's amazing.
It was a lot of work, but it was worth it, and it was so much. I mean, it was fun, and it helped. I guess it was therapy. I mean, it just helped me do something. I don't know, and it was. And I think I did it. I think I did it 3 years in a row, and then had Brooklyn, and I kind of took a little break because after I had kids, it was a lot harder. And then I did a golf tournament. I did it actually in the summertime, but I still called it with Christmas with Casey. We weren't quite as successful, but it was still a fun fundraiser to do. And actually, I'm gonna get starting on next year. So it's paying back, I guess. It makes me feel good.
Oh, well, we appreciate your helping us to help more families and to try to stop CDH in memory of Casey. And if anyone has any questions on how to hold a fundraiser, Nicolle and Amanda can talk you through that. We have some info sheets that help you figure out how to do things like bake sales, car washes, golf tournaments, auctions, small softball games. Like, we have a long list of instructions for fundraisers. So if you want to just do a restaurant night that's super easy, that can raise some money, we can do that. Or if you want to take on a full-on huge project like a golf tournament or a formal dinner, we can give you information on that and help you as much as we can from afar, because we have a lot of families that we're trying to help. But we'd love to have families with initiative who want to help us help the kids. And, we're mostly funded by families who are giving back. We don't have any government funding. We have very few foundation grants. So how we help families is the family helping us, and also families reaching out to companies who sponsor and help us as well. Nicolle, thank you so much for everything that you do. We all adore you, and I know it's a lot of work on the CPAB and fundraising, and especially hard the first few years after you lose your child, to be surrounded by other children and survivors. It's not easy. It's not easy on our grieving parents to volunteer, and I think a lot of people don't recognize that it's emotionally hard for volunteers. And also parents of survivors, they have a hard time volunteering too. They're juggling, a lot of worry and taking care of their cherubs, and it's not easy. It's not easy to volunteer and put part of your life aside to help others, and it's a sacrifice. And I don't think our volunteers are appreciated as much as they should be, but we do appreciate you. And thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. Talk to you later.
Okay. All right, so bye-bye. So we have an update on the quilt. We're up to $320 on the eBay auction, and we're very grateful for that $320 bid. It's wonderful, but let me just reiterate that this is a handmade quilt, one of a kind in the world, with imported fabric, symbolizing CDH on the outside and the inside. You will never find another quilt in existence like this one ever again. So if you're smart and you love quilts, or you want something beautiful to hang in your house, or to donate to the hospital to hang on their wall, or to give to another family, or something to remember a chair, whatever you want to do with this quilt, put it on your bed. Whatever, makes you happy, you can also help the charity, help more families, and fight CDH. And the eBay link, we'll get that posted again if one of the volunteers on the CPAB members don't mind posting that on the comments and on the page also. Remember that the auction ends at 11:30, so you have a little more than an hour and a half to get those bids in. So we are going next. We're going to go to we're going to have an update, a celeb, and then we're going to have an update real quick, and then we're going to go to our next interview. I think we can, we can. We'll let Dallas figure out who's next. So right now, we are very restless. It's been a very long day, and let's see who our next celebrity is.
I don't know if Shelly's here, but I have a video.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Linder. I play Esther Valentine on The Young and the Restless. April 19th is International Congenital Diaphragmatic Hernia Awareness Day. CDH takes thousands of kids a year. So on April 19th, please go to www.cdhi.org. Help the kids on CDH Awareness Day. Thank you.
I am going to give you an update. I'm going to rewrite this in black, and I'm going to hold it up. It's a pretty exciting number right here. So, it is not the number we want to reach yet, but we are getting closer. You guys see this? $46,076. And we have an hour and 6 minutes left. I don't know if you guys can see. An hour and 6 minutes left to reach $4,000 more. So, please go to the website. Please share. Please tell your family and friends on social media, hey, this really great charity that helps thousands of babies that no one else is helping. I mean, we're reaching families in countries where they have nothing, is trying to help. And can you help us help reach their goal of $50,000 today? And really, if we think about it, $50,000 is not a lot for the world's largest CDH charity to help thousands of kids to try to end this monster. We can do this. I know we can do this in the last hour. We've got this, but we can't do it without your help. So if you are waiting till the last minute to keep us on suspense and holding your donation, do they need it? Are they going to reach the goal? Are they not? Just go on ahead and donate it, and help relieve some of our stress. Let us meet that goal. And we're all about excitement and drama live right now. And this is good kind of excitement and drama, but let's reach that number. So next, another great way that you can help is by going to DC with us. And we're going to go to a video of David Finger. And he's going to tell us about his chair, Vivian, and the work that he's doing in DC for us as a volunteer. All right, take it away.
My name is David Finger. My cherub's name is Vivian Finger. Vivian just turned 3 years old last month. She is a happy, healthy little girl. No obvious complications that we're aware of at this point from her CDH. She was born with left-sided CDH, but 3.5 years ago when we were, my wife Allison and I, when we were getting ready for Vivian to be born, we were under the impression that things were going to be a lot worse than they turned out to be. We were told by the doctors that there was a very good chance that she would not live, and that if she did live, that she was going to be very sick. We ended up at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. My wife got a diagnosis that there was something wrong, actually, within the first 10 weeks of the pregnancy, and we found out at a 16-week checkup that it was CDH. And the doctor who diagnosed the CDH actually gave us a DVD for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. That's how we learned about it, and within 24 hours we had decided that that's where we were going to give birth. So again, up until the birth, we were under the impression that Viv was maybe not going to make it, and if she did, was going to have a very long road ahead of her. And it turned out that things worked out pretty well. For us, Viv was born on March 18th. Within about 3 days, they told us that she was not going to need ECMO, which we had been fairly certain that she would, and that they were probably going to be able to repair her hernia within the next week or two. She did have her hernia repair. It took about 3 weeks before she was ready for it. And we were out of the hospital and out of the NICU by mid-May, so we were basically in the NICU for 2 months. When we came home, Viv had a feeding tube in her nose. She had pretty severe reflux, and she had some physical developmental delays simply because she'd been intubated for the first month or so of her life. But within 6 months, the feeding tube was gone. I'd say within a year and a half, the reflux had gone. And she's recovered now at this point. She goes to school with other kids. She gets sick, and it's not fun, but, like with any other kid, she's able to get through it. The sort of unique thing about Viv's CDH, they had diagnosed her as having liver up. And of course, CDH parents know liver up is a bad diagnosis typically. It was apparently not up. It was presenting as up on the x-ray, but it was softer organs that were up, and when they went in to do the repair, they actually found that that she had quite a bit of lung, more lung than they realized. It was just under those softer organs. So, on the one hand, we feel like we were a bit unlucky in the fact that our daughter had CDH at all. On the other hand, given how things turned out and given how many problems can come about from CDH, we feel like we were incredibly lucky. So I started volunteering with Cherubs about a year after Vivian was born. The first year was just, too much in a lot of different ways, physically, emotionally, and just, not sleeping because you've got a newborn. But after about a year, I got in touch with Dawn and the folks at Cherubs. I'm a lobbyist. I live right outside Washington, D.C., and so I decided to help out with some of the Hill Days. And this year, I'm helping to organize our Hill Day, which is going to be April 23rd and 24th. We are looking for sponsors for a piece of legislation that has not yet been introduced, but we're hoping to have introduced later this year. The bill would do two main things. The first thing is it would require the Department of Health and Human Services, the federal government, to undertake a public awareness campaign for CDH. One of the reasons that Vivian, my daughter, was able to survive and is as healthy as she is today is because we got a very good early diagnosis to let us know that there was something wrong and to let us know that we needed to take steps to have her in a hospital where she could be treated. And, as soon as she was born, they whisked her away, and they had a room of, 10 full of 10 different healthcare professionals just ready to do everything they needed to do to keep her alive, keep her sedated. And a lot of people don't have that experience for a variety of reasons, and one of the big ones is they don't necessarily know until the baby's born that the baby has CDH. It is terrifying to me to think of what would have happened had we not been at a hospital that was equipped to treat CDH, and had we not been in a place where she could get proper treatment. So, having a public awareness campaign about CDH, not just to educate, parents or people who might be having a kid, but to educate hospitals to know what to look for. I think can save lives. And it is important to have something like this for CDH for a couple of reasons. One of the things that I've learned since I've started lobbying with Cherubs is that CDH falls into this sort of unfortunate place where we are an uncommon condition, birth defect, and because it's uncommon, there aren't that many people impacted by it. I think it's 1 out of every 2,500 live births. It does end up being a lot of people, but compared to some diseases that are more common, there aren't quite as many people affected. There aren't quite as many people maybe that are willing to advocate for it. On the other hand, we are not quite rare. We're not considered rare. And for rare diseases, there's actually a big pot of research money out there because there's an understanding that a rare disease may not have as many advocates. Therefore, you need to spend more money researching rare diseases because you may not have parents banging down your door asking for research dollars. So we're kind of in this difficult spot where we're uncommon, so we don't have as many advocates, but we're not rare, so we don't get access to that money. So the second thing that the bill does is it requires National Institutes of Health to do a thorough review of the amount of money that they're spending on CDH research. This can be kind of difficult because, as you know, there's the actual birth defect resulting from CDH, but then there are a number of other different health conditions that result from CDH. You can have heart issues, lung issues. With ECMO, there's all sorts of additional health issues that can crop up. So, taking a look at all of the different types of conditions that NIH does research on to try to determine, how much money is being spent on CDH directly and indirectly, and whether or not that is an adequate amount of money. And then to let Congress know what they find. And then the hope would be that, they'll develop that report, give it to Congress, and then we can use that potentially in the future to either argue that more money needs to go for CDH, which I suspect is the case, or if not, at least we'll have a much better idea of, how that money is being spent, and maybe weigh in and say, well, here's some of the things that are going on right now in the medical community related to CDH, and here's how some of that money should be focused. So it's really been a pleasure for me to be able to participate in this effort that Cherubs does every year and really learn about CDH. Being in the hospital, being in the NICU, you learn a lot, and then once you come home and you've got your kid with you, you learn a lot more. But having this opportunity to work with Cherubs and interact with policymakers and doctors and congressional staff and kind of learn how federal healthcare policy works has really been a great experience for me. And it's really nice for me to be able to, I don't know, give back, but to be able to do something in a positive way that can help kids like my daughter in the future, and who knows, maybe even maybe even someday, more kids can survive and have healthy outcomes. So really appreciate the time here, and I'll go ahead and sign off there. So.
Hey guys, I just want you to all know for the kids that April 19th is International CDH Awareness Day. So I'm going to put the link up here for you so you can all be aware for the kids. Okay, it's Sonja Morgan from the Real Housewives of New York City, and I want to thank you all for following. All right, so lots of love, big kisses, and please follow the cdhi.org.
Did we do a 10 o'clock total? I don't think we did.
Yes, we did.
We did? Okay, so you guys have to wait 8 more minutes. And I see a spot for Shanna. I don't hear her. Shanna? Oh, we lost her. Should we get back in a second? All right. So we're not going to be able to get Shelly Moore in here tonight because we're running out of time. So we are going to have several families that we were not able to get in here throughout the rest of the month. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the CPAB to coordinate maybe a certain time of day, every other day, and feature a family and share stories for CDH Awareness Month. Because I know Hope loves to do live videos. Don't you, Hope? I think Hope crashed. I think we lost her. She must be exhausted. Hope was up really late last night with us, too. Oh. Okay. We're going to get Shannon here. I see the screen. Oh, try it again. So close. Get her in here in a minute. 10 o'clock, we have 1 hour left, everyone. 1 hour. 1 hour to reach this goal. And our last total, I had it written down on my messy desk. At this point, it looks like, oh, we were at $46,076 at the last count. So we now have 1 hour to raise. Oh, Lord, don't make me add. Uh-oh, we're up to, okay. Well, we're going to do the 10:15 update now. We're going to do it 5 minutes early because we're going to do an interview over 10:15 because we're going to get Shannon here. So right now we are at 47,218. Do you guys hear that? So Rachel, how much more money do we need? Don't make me math right now. I'm super tired.
2,800.
We need 2,800. Less than $3,000 in an hour. We can do that. So if you're not donated yet, if you're just now watching this live stream, and you really want me to shut up because I've been talking for 15 hours straight, let's go ahead and make those donations and save some chairs. And we have Shanna online. I can see you. Can you hear me? I can't hear her. But we're making progress. So, and we've kind of stalled. You can hear her? I can't hear her. Oh, we have a little bit more video. All right. It corrected itself with Nicolle, so maybe it'll correct itself with Shanna. We're going to, I don't know if you can hear me. Maybe you can't hear me. So we're gonna keep it going for a minute, and hopefully she'll show up on the other end there. And hi, Shanna. I haven't seen Shanna in person in 10 years. Landon's not that old. It's been a long time. It's been a long, long time. since Orlando conference when he was a little guy. All the Disney pictures with wings that you see, those are Landon. Super adorable. So, all right. So we're going to, I see something. Can you hear me, Shanna? She can't hear anything. I'm not muted or anything, right? Okay. All right. So we can. And she's not muted. She didn't hit the mute button. Maybe. Sometimes it's the most simple things, especially this late at night. Volume up. So strange. What in the world? All right. All right. We don't know what to do. Okay. I can see you. No, we can't hear you. Can you hear me over there, Dallas or Rachel with headphones?
Your audio's fine.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, we just can't hear her audio. So strange. I'm not sure what to do. All right, so I'm just going to keep talking. And I think at this point, if we can't hear her audio, we need to reboot this, not reboot us, but start this video over again.
Can you hear now?
I can't hear her. No. But she can hear me, but I can't hear her, right? Is that right? You can hear her? I can't hear her.
Nope. Somebody talk.
But I'm talking, I lost her on my end. So yeah. Oh, there she's back again. Shanna, can you hear me now? No? Okay.